Hey guys, Anthony here. Today I'm going to show you how to remove medical debts from your credit report. I also have some real data from people who've actually tried these methods through my personal finance app, so you can see how effective each of them actually are. I've only helped 23 people with this, so it's not exactly scientific, but it should give you some idea of what you can expect with each one. Before I get started, please hit that like button and subscribe for more personal finance videos. The first way to remove medical debts doesn't start with the credit bureaus, but with the company collecting the debt. Start by contacting your collection agency by mail with an account validation letter. In your letter, ask for every piece of information they have that can validate the debt. Here's an example of what to ask for. The first part of this letter has the usual legal jargon, just requiring them to comply with the Fair Credit Reporting Act and all that. But the next part is what we can actually catch them with. Here we're going to ask them to justify the amount of money we owe and provide us with any copies of any documents that they have that prove this. This is crucial for later. I'll explain why in a second. Collection companies are really good at dealing with debt, but not so good at dealing with medical records. And sometimes they screw up. And if they do screw up, they're going to end up dealing with HIPAA. Fines for violating HIPAA range from $100 to $50,000, and they're based on a tier system. People like you or me, who really shouldn't know better, we'd be charged around $100. But people who are collecting medical debts really should know how to handle medical records. So expect them to pay a little more than that. If, for some reason, the collection agency sends you your medical records to validate your debt, they have breached HIPAA. So you would just have to sue. So at this point in the game, getting your medical debts removed hinges on the collection company screwing up. So you've done all that you can. You've written your letters, you've sent them. Now it's just a waiting game. If the collection company messes up, getting the debt removed from your credit report just got a lot easier. At this point, you'll be sitting at home with a letter from the collection agency containing your personal medical records. Now it's time to contact the credit bureaus, and here's what you'll say. Start by telling them what happened. You sent them a request to validate the debt, and they responded back with your private personal medical records. Now, medical records can be shared if a release is signed, but you haven't signed any such release with the collection agency, so they're in big trouble. From there, you can threaten them a little bit with some legal action if your credit report isn't cleaned up. You'll send these letters to any credit bureau that reports these items, again through certified mail, and keep your confirmation of receipt. Best case scenario, the credit bureaus remove the item immediately, and you're done. That's what we're hoping for. If they do refuse, things get a little more dicey. You're going to have to hire a lawyer and sue for a HIPAA violation. Your goal in the lawsuit would be settlement. Get them to drop the collection entirely in order to avoid fines. If the lawsuit was successful, you'd repeat the process of disputing the collection with the credit bureaus, and it would be removed from your credit report since the collection agency would no longer be reporting it. If all this sounds like a lot to track, that's because it is. Collection agencies work for the banks, not for you, so they don't want to make this process easy for you. They want to get their money. If all this sounds difficult, there's an app called Novita that will help you do it. We'll write your disputes for you and help you respond to credit bureaus and collection agencies. It's also completely free. I've helped a total of 23 people remove medical debts from their credit reports so far. Each of them started with the HIPAA method and progressed from there. And of the 23 that tried, 7 were successful. Interestingly, 6 out of 7 of those were handled by smaller collection agencies, not the big major ones. Many of the others were handled by a company called American Medical Collection Agency. And as the name suggests, they probably know a lot more about collecting medical debts, and so they make these mistakes less often. Alright, let's move on now and talk about what happens if the collection agency doesn't screw up and validates the debt without a HIPAA violation. First up, if you want to try your hand at classic credit repair, you totally can. You can skip the collection agency altogether and just dispute the item with the credit bureaus like you would anything else. To dispute the item directly, you'd send a validation letter to the credit bureaus this time. It's almost the same letter as last time, but the goal is a little bit different. This time, we're hoping the credit bureaus can't validate the debt in time, and so they have to remove it from your credit report. Here's an example of what that letter would look like. Again, it's very similar to the previous letter, but with a different end goal. Sometimes the credit bureau is slow to the punch, and so is the collection agency. Sometimes you get lucky, but I wouldn't hold my breath on it. Out of our users, 12 of them tried to remove the accurate item using standard disputes. None of them were successful in removing the medical debt. One guy did manage to get one thing removed, but it wasn't a medical item, so... If both of these methods fail, it's time to pay up, because settling with the collection agency is your next best bet. I know it doesn't seem like it, but collection agencies don't want to screw up your life. They do it to get leverage over you so you'll pay them. So just do it. If you can, settle with the collection agency, because paying it makes it go away. It's also the fastest way to clean up your credit report. There's no templates needed for this one. Just call the collection company that's been phoning you 400 times a day for the last 2 months, and say you want to come up with a payment plan. Once the debt to the collection agency has been paid, or they agree to stop reporting it, you can repeat the step from above and just dispute the item from your credit report, and it'll come off because the collection agency will no longer be validating the debt. The last option you have is to never pay your debt and to deal with years of perpetual harassment and bad credit. Not a good option. Out of the 23 that we started with, 8 of them continued with us to try to settle their medical debts. They're all in various stages of settlement right now, and none wanted to get up and actually share their story. I can say that simply paying the collection agency does work every time, but then you actually need to pay. There's a lot of pressure on the credit bureaus by the National Consumer Law Center to change how they report medical debts. Right now, they're treating medical bills the exact same way as they treat someone who spends like a maniac on their credit cards, and that's obviously not fair. The argument is that medical issues weren't caused by irresponsible spending, but by something completely out of your control, as in having nothing to do with how you handle debt. Some of this pressure has paid off, and with FICO 9, medical debts are weighted less on your credit report, but joke's on us because lenders refuse to adopt that version of FICO. The problem really has 2 sides, how credit is scored and how lenders use it. So it's going to be a while before consumers actually start benefiting from any of these changes. I hope sharing this shines a light on how this process can work and gives you an idea of your odds with each method. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer every one of you.